Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Giri Bharadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Srimad, Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Daksha, verse 14. Vidya tapo vrata dharan mukata sma vipran brahmatma tatvam avitom pratamam tvam asrak tad brahmananan parama sarva vipatso pashe pala pashon eva vibho pragrihita danda vidya tapovrata dharan mukatasma vipran. Brahmatma tattvam avitum pratamam tvam asrak. Tad brahmananam parama sarva vipatsu pashe. Brahmanam parama sarva vipatsu pashe. Pala pashun ivavibo pragrihita danda. Vidya tapovrata dharan mukatasva vipram. Brahmatma tattvam avitum pratamam tvam asrak. Tad brahmanan paramasarva vipatsu pasi. Pala pashun evavibo pragrihita danda. Vidya tapovrata dharan mukatasma vipran. Brahmatma tattvam avitum pratamam tvam asrak. Tad brahmanan paramasarva vipatsu pasi. Pala pashun ivavibo pragrihita danda. Tapovrata dharan mukatasma vipran. Brahmatma tattvam avitum pratamam tvam asrak. Tad brahmanan paramasarva vipatsu pasi. Pala pashun ivavibo pragrihita danda. Vidya tapovrata dharan mukatasma vipran. Brahmatma tattvam avitum pratamam tvam asrak. Tad brahmanan paramasarva vipatsu pasi. Pala pashun ivavibo pragrihita danda. Vidya tapovrata dharan mukatasma vipran. Brahmatma tattvam avitum pratamam tvam asrak. Tad brahmanan paramasarva vipatsu pasi. Pala pasun ivavibo pragrihita danda. Matajis. Vidyata povrata dharan mukatasma vipran. Ram atma tattvam avitom pratamam tomasrak. Tad brahmanan paramasarva tatsuvasi. Pala pashon ivavibo pragrihita danda. Vidya, learning. Tapa, austerities. Vrata, vows. Dharan, the followers. Mukata, from the mouth. Sma, was. Vipran, the Brahmins. Brahma, Lord Brahma. Atmatattvam, self-realization. Avitum, to disseminate. Pratamam, first. Tvam, you. Asrak, created. Tat, therefore. Brahmanan, the Brahmins. Parama, O Great One. Sarva, all. Vipatso, in dangers. Pasi, you protect. Pala, like the protector. Pashun, the animals. Eva, like. Vibho, O Great One. Pragrahita, taking in hand. Danda, a stick. Translation: My dear great and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Lord Brahma in order to protect the Brahmins in pursuing education, austerities, vows, and self-realization. As protector of the Brahmins, you always protect the regulative principles they follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The specific function of a human being in society, irrespective of his social status, is to practice control of the mind and senses by observing the regulative principles enjoined in the Vedic Shastras. Lord Shiva is called Pashupati because he protects the living entities in their developed consciousness so that they may follow the Vedic system of Varna and Ashram. The word Pashu refers to the animal as well as to the human entity. It is stated here that Lord Shiva is always interested in protecting the animals and the animalistic living entities who are not very advanced in the spiritual sense. It is also stated that the Brahmins are produced from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. We should always remember that Lord Shiva is being addressed as the representative of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. In the Vedic literature, it is described that the Brahmins are born from the mouth of the universal form of Vishnu. The Kshatriyas are born from his arms, the Vaishyas from his abdomen or waist, and the Sudras from his legs. In the formation of a body, The head is the principal factor. The Brahmins are born from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to accept charity for worship of Vishnu and to spread Vedic knowledge. Lord Shiva is known as Pashupati, the protector of the Brahmins and other living entities. He protects them from the attacks of non-Brahmins or uncultured persons who are against the self-realization process. Another feature of this word means Pashupati. Another feature of this word is that persons who are simply attached to the ritualistic portion of the Vedas and do not understand the situation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not any more advanced than animals. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is confirmed that even though one performs the rituals of the Vedas, if he does not develop a sense of Krishna consciousness, then all his labor in performing Vedic rituals is considered to be simply a waste of time. Lord Shiva's aim in destroying the Daksha Yajna was to punish Daksha because by neglecting him, Lord Shiva, Daksha was committing a great offense. Lord Shiva's punishment was just like that of a cowherd boy who keeps a stick to frighten his animals. It is commonly said that to give protection to animals, a stick is needed because animals cannot reason and argue. Their reasoning and argument is argumentum ad baculum. Unless there is a rod, they do not obey. Force is required for the animalistic class of men, whereas those who are advanced are convinced by reasons, arguments, and scriptural authority. Persons who are simply attached to Vedic rituals without further advancement of devotional service or Krishna consciousness are almost like animals. And Lord Shiva is in charge of giving them protection and sometimes punishing them as he punished Daksha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyas Chakripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I'll just read the verse again. Vidyata povrata dharan mukatasma vitpran brahmatma tattvam avitum pratamam tomasrak tad brahmanan parama sarva vipatsupasi pala pashuni vavibo pragrihita danda. My dear great and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Lord Brahma in order to protect the Brahmins in pursuing education, austerities, vows, and self-realization. As protector of the Brahmins, you always protect the regulative principles they follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yes, so, glorification of Lord Shiva and quite severe, what would you say, criticism, chastisement, putting in place of particularly those who worship demigods and similar ritualistic types of activities which are mentioned in the Vedas. So this, of course, this is Daksha speaking now. Yeah, this is Daksha himself speaking. And we mentioned the other day, we read actually, Srila Prabhupada said, it was the week before last, that these prayers offered by Daksha when he comes to his senses again, or when he comes to his senses, they're very nice. They're very nice. And this is an example. It's very nice. It's full of humility too. It's full of humility in the sense that Daksha is, we can say, heavily criticizing the people who are doing what he used to do. He used to do, in fact, just fairly recently, not long before, he was in the middle of some big demigod fire yajna, fire sacrifice, very sophisticated one, where there are different stages, like really major stages in the process of the fire sacrifice. And it was all for material purposes and just getting material benefits, getting material things, and all this sort of idea. In other words, technically it can be called karma kandya. Karma kandya. Shri Radharanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. I think we mentioned on Sunday morning, I think so, that Karma Kandya, every morning, of course, just after Mangal Arati, when we have just sung the Nrsimha Pranams, and before Tulsi Puja, we recite different things. It's different things anyway. And of course, one of the main things we recite is the 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy names. And the 8th offense of the 10 is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna to actually be one of the materialistic, ritualistic, fruitive activities described in the Vedas as karma kandya. Karma kandya. Karma in this context, of course, karma has different understandings of what it implies depending on its application, in what context it's being used. But in this context, karma kandya means that particular form of religion where the person who is doing or involved in the particular performance, whatever it may be, the particular religious activity, is specifically praying or appealing or in one way or another trying to acquire from whoever the activities are being performed for the pleasure of, but to acquire material benefit in very simple terms. Money, health, nice family situation, even as gross as illicit as some form of sex life, all these types of things. This is karmakandya, is that group of activities, principal amongst which is worship of demigods, which is strictly and specifically for the purpose of getting material benefit. We mentioned money, etc. So that was daksha. That was daksha. Actually, the purpose of religion is to reawaken our eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a step in the process for returning to his kingdom and living there eternally with him, which is just literally in another dimension of religious activity than the karmakandya, just appealing for some material assets. So that is actually the purpose of the human form of life, because we are not just these material bodies. These bodies are temporary vehicles, just like the different vehicles moving in the street just outside here. They're vehicles for carrying people. The vehicle is not a person. It's an object which can be utilized by people. So these bodies are not exactly people. The soul, the eternal person, conscious living being, who is manipulating the body and whose consciousness is illuminating the body, which is otherwise simply dead matter. So that eternal spirit soul, that's the person. That's the actual person, and the body is simply a vehicle. It is actually as simple as that. Simply a vehicle. It has no capacity beyond being a vehicle. You know, sometimes I've heard they make movies in which vehicles come to life. Am I right? I heard about that. Sorry? Oh, Herbie, the VW. Oh, we have an expert here. Okay, you know, I think I can say I'm happy to say I'm not up with all these things. But somehow the vehicle apparently becomes a person and thinks and feels and tries to achieve whatever, some things. But it's a nonsense. It's simply a nonsense. There is no such thing. There never has been. There never will be as just a vehicle, like a car or a truck or something, which actually comes to life and is actually now living. It's fiction. And it's just encouraging the already existing state of confusion of the conditioned souls. Yeah. They're already confused enough. They're actually already more than confused enough. But now their confusion is being multiplied further by something which is so obviously just nonsense, but they enjoy it and they pay good money. And I think the makers of those movies become millionaires. Something like that. Yeah. Such is life in the material world. So our bodies are also simply vehicles. They're animated by the presence of the soul, the eternal conscious person. Life is there and action is there of the body. And consciousness is there, being lent to the body from the same source, the eternal spirit soul, the eternal conscious person. And when the soul leaves the body immediately falls down, and there's no consciousness, there's no life, there's no activity, because those functions were not functions of the body. Just like a puppet, some form of, a hand puppet or one of the ones on strings. They are manipulated by the person who's putting on the show. But as soon as the person puts the puppet down, the puppet's not going to do anything of its own accord. So these bodies, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same, actually. And that karma kandya means making different arrangements for the enjoyment of the body. Yes, money, so we can get nice things for the body. A house, so the body will be comfortable and will be protected from the rain and so on. Food, so the body continues living, and so on. Yes. So this is all this form of religion. It's material. It's to do with the body, and we've mentioned a few times over the past few years of Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan's comments in his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, his comments on the invocation, the introductory verse, which is saying, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Brahma means spirit, soul, and Jigyasa means to acquire knowledge or to acquire or inquire knowledge about Brahma, about spirit. And atato is interesting sort of grammatical construction. It's one word repeated. The word ata repeated becomes atato. Those of you who are doing this Sanskrit course, anyway, you might have got that far by now. How words in Sanskrit, particularly the endings of words, change depending on the first letter or letters of the next word. So atato is ata, ata. But when the a meets the b, the b of Brahma, then the ata, ata, the second ata becomes atato. So anyway, this word ata means basically thereafter, after something. After something, you do something else. So, but it's after two things, ata, ata. After, you should inquire into spirit. spiritual things, the spiritual nature. So he discusses, Baladeva Vijabhushan, what are these two attas, after. So he says the first atta is referring to just grossly materialistic life. Just grossly materialistic life, with no sense of religion at all, or of any higher authority, but just somehow get things to enjoy life. Somehow get money, get things, beg, borrow, or steal, but somehow get things that you can enjoy, that your body, the senses of your body can enjoy. So just grossly materialistic life, which is prevalent, of course, nowadays. So after that, after going beyond that, you should inquire into spiritual things. But now there's the second atta. So what is that? That is after ritualistic materialism, religious materialism, where you're trying to get the same things as the gross materialist, the money, the good health, the nice motor car, the nice house, and you're trying to get the same things, but by the grace of God or some higher gods, demigods. But it's the same program. It's just there's no religion, it's just gross, just get things. And the other process is through religious activity, you get the same things, material things. And those same things basically means facilities for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Basically, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's what people are doing in material life. And that we have in common with the animals. If we observe the animals we see, essentially they don't do anything other than eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Basically, they don't do anything other than those things. And humans, to a very large extent, are in the same program as the animals, just sophisticated animals. So Baladeva Vijabhushan, then his comment on that atato brahma jigyasa is that first you have to give up just being a gross animal in human form. In Sanskrit it's called purusha pashu, a man animal. You have to give that up. Otherwise you won't be able to get into spiritual things. But then after that, you have to, he says, stop being a religious animal. This is actually the terminology which Prabhupada is using here in the purport. I assume you noticed it. That this term, pashupati, pashu generally means animal, and pati means the master. So this is a name of Lord Shiva, one of his many names, Pashupati, and he's addressed Daksha in the actual verse itself in the Sanskrit. He addresses Lord Shiva as my dear Pashupati. So Prabhupada says here that persons who are simply attached to the ritualistic portion of the Vedas and do not understand the situation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not any more advanced than animals. Haribol. That's actually what Prabhupada says. And as you need a stick to direct animals and stop them from doing things and get them to do things. You need a stick, because they just don't have that thinking capacity. So with people, Prabhupada says, force is required for the animalistic class of men. So at least twice. A third time, persons who are simply attached to Vedic rituals without further advancement of devotional service or Krishna consciousness are almost like animals. That's a little better than just being animal. Almost like. Yeah. Because they're interested in, they're doing actually the same activities as the animals and not doing the activities which are truly characteristic of the humans, which means Brahma Jigyasa, inquiring into spiritual things, and ultimately God realization. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that this term Pashu, like many Sanskrit words, we even referred to the term karma just some minutes ago. So similarly, Pashu has different meanings in terms of the application, in terms of the context. Sort of the basic meaning, the first meaning is animal. But then there are broader meanings. And Pashu can be taken simply to mean the living entities, including the humans, and just any living entity can be referred to as Pashu. And he is Pashupati. He's the master of the Pashus. In that broader sense, all living entities, not simply the animals. So Prabhupada makes the point that Lord Shiva is called Pashupati because he protects the living entities in their developed consciousness so that they may follow the Vedic system of Varna and Ashram. In different ways, Lord Shiva protects the humans, the living entities who are in developed consciousness, the humans. He protects them so they can engage in those actual human activities of God realization, self-realization. Yes. So he protects them so they can do that. And amongst those who are doing that, the Brahmins are the heads. The Brahmins are the heads in descriptions of the universal form, the Vishvarupa or Virat Rupa. Then human society is described in terms of being as if it's a body, and the different persons or the different levels of persons in human society are different levels of the parts of the body. And the Brahmins are the head. The Brahmins are the head. And in the head is the mouth. And the mouth, in terms of Brahminical activity, the mouth is there particularly for instructing on spiritual things. That's what the mouth is for. And of course, eating prasadam. But the mouth is there for instructing, helping those who are in the lower parts, the kshatriyas, the warriors, the administrators. They're born from his arms, and they physically manipulate under the instructions of the Brahmins. The Vaishyas are from the abdomen. I mean, sometimes the Kshatriya is also described as being the chest and the arms. But here the Vaishyas are described as being the abdomen or the waist, and the Sudras are the legs, the working class, who just simply just basically do what they're told to get things done for the development of human society. So therefore, as Prabhupada says, Lord Shiva is known as Pashupati, the protector of the Brahmins and other living entities, and he protects them from the attacks of non-Brahmins or uncultured persons who are against the self-realization process. You know, unfortunately, nowadays those types of people, I mean, some are more sort of blatant about it than others. But we've noticed in certain countries how the governments of certain countries deal with our movement, not mentioning the name of any country, but one country where I used to go regularly because they were very sort of encouraging towards the Krishna consciousness movement, the government. I remember when I went the first time to their embassy in Pretoria to get a visa for their country, they rolled out the red carpet. They welcomed me and just, they were so happy and friendly. Yeah. But now, if you go there, the activities of any religious organization, including the Krishna consciousness movement, are really quite severely curtailed or restricted, limited. So they're not saying in as many words that we are against you. We would prefer to stop you. But they're sort of moving things in that direction. And you can see where they're coming from. So Lord Shiva protects. And he punishes. He punishes. It's not really up to us to punish these people, but Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, they punish. We should leave the punishment up to them. And Yamaraj, leave it up to them. But that's why here the stick is mentioned, that you, Lord Shiva, is described. You're like a cowherd boy. As protector of the Brahmins, you always protect the regulative principles they follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. So Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, Prabhupada also mentions Lord Vishnu in that context in the purport. They protect the regulative principles that the Brahmins follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to protect cows, by sometimes taking some action against those rascals who are opposed particularly to Krishna consciousness or religion in the broader sense also. I remember, actually before I joined, but I mean it was just a matter of weeks before I joined, and the devotees, this thing had just happened, and the devotees were talking about it a lot, that in Scotland, in Edinburgh, there was a member of the city council called Councillor Kidd, K-I-D-D, Councillor Kidd. And Councillor Kidd hated the Hare Krishna movement. And he was always reporting when the devotees would go out chanting or distributing literature, he'd always call the police. Always. Just every time. And make a fuss about it. And finally there was a court case against the devotees. Councillor Kidd made a court case. The devotees got to the court in the morning, and whoever was there, the authorities, said, no, the case is called off. Councillor Kidd had a heart attack last night and died. I'm serious. This is definitely a true story. Yeah. Yes. So it's the intervention. It's the intervention, not of the devotees themselves, but it's the intervention of Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Lord Yamaraj, these higher personalities who are actually interested, and they actively try to encourage the devotees and defend and protect the devotees against these different types of negativity. So this is glorious. This activity of Lord Shiva, of Lord Shiva's, is glorious. And Daksha is glorifying him for it. Although the thing is, Daksha is the one who used to do it. And who actually did it. And vilified Lord Shiva. Oh, just in horrible ways. Really horrible ways. But now he's become corrected, like drastically, really corrected. And so now he's glorifying Lord Shiva for punishing people exactly like what he used to be himself. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions? Yes, please, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for the lecture. I would just like to inquire with regards to Lord Shiva. If I'm not mistaken, is he also seen as a great devotee of Lord Shiva?
Yes.
And with that in mind, is it necessary to pay respects to Lord Shiva as a devotee of Krishna, not so much as a demigod, but as one of Krishna's greatest devotees?
Right, sure. Yeah, a sort of on the basic level, as devotees, a natural characteristic of a devotee is that they're very respectful to, what to speak of, the big people, but even to the ants. Prabhupada specifically said like that on numerous occasions. So in our perspectives as devotees, our perspective on Lord Shiva himself, we, obviously we understand that he has a duty as a demigod to fulfill people's desires, material desires. We're aware of that. But we don't appreciate him for that. We appreciate him and we will glorify him. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. That Lord Shiva Shambhu is the greatest or one of the greatest devotees. And, we do mention from time to time in our preaching how Lord Shiva, he fulfills people's material desires. We may make note of that and talk about it, but our appreciation of him is for being a devotee, a great devotee. Yeah. But having said that, there are so many great devotees. It's not just billions, trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, or zillions. It's just there's so many. You can't glorify all of them actively. So in our line, we have certain particular devotees who have been sort of singled out, you could say, and therefore, on their appearance days, sometimes disappearance days, we announce it in the morning. Yeah, like Arjunacharya Prabhu yesterday announced it was Rupa Goswami was yesterday, and Gauridas Pandit, wasn't it? Yesterday. Although we didn't have a special function, we had a recording of Prabhupada giving class. Sometimes on the appearance or disappearance, but more appearance days of people like them, in the class we may tell some of their biographical information, we may. In other cases, like a few weeks ago, it was the either appearance or disappearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So we put his picture. We certainly give a class where we talk about him. We put his picture on this other Vyasasan on our left from here, and we have a whole arti, and we do a whole thing for him. So, which means that even amongst those great devotees who we specify in our calendar, there are different ways of acknowledging their greatness. But, it's said that in Krishna consciousness every day is a festival, in the sense, of course every day is a festival because it's just so nice. But there's also in the sense that any day, 365 and 366 in leap years, there is some thing which happened, amazing thing, or some amazing person who appeared or did something every day. And it's not just one. Like, was it yesterday? It was the two. And they're really big people. But if you really get into it, you'll find every day there's a whole list of events which could be celebrated by us, not just things to do with the demigods, or, we don't get into the demigods, but just things to do with us. And you just can't do it. Just make your life an endless, observing of different festive occasions. We've got business to do on behalf of those great persons of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. So therefore we don't, Shivaratri, it's usually in February or March, something like that, the appearance day of Lord Shiva. We don't have a festival, we don't really observe it, because we're active here in a social environment which is predominantly Hindu people. On that day, we just recently, last few years, we've adopted the practice of having a program in the evening in which we talk about Lord Shiva as a devotee, and people come. So, but otherwise, we don't celebrate the appearance day of Lord Shiva, or even Lord Brahma, who is the head of our line. Yeah. Is that okay? Yes.
Just an observation from what you presented. It seems like one of the greatest things is attitude that has changed, because we look at Daksha had this attitude of criticizing, and then after the punishment, like you said, then his attitude changed to that of gratitude and appreciation.
Sure.
So it's the attitude that we have that makes a huge difference in our lives.
Sure. Attitude is a reflection of something deeper than just sort of, an attitude. It's a reflection of like a real psychological condition and emotional condition. Yeah. It's an important, very important part of it. But yeah, his whole thinking processes got turned literally upside down from completely bad to completely good. Yeah. But yes, attitude is very important. Attitude reflects your opinion. If you have an opinion, he's nice, but he's not nice, then the way you deal may well be different. Hare Krishna. Therefore, Lord Caitanya, when Lord Caitanya was asked one time, he was asked a few times, how do you recognize a devotee? How can you distinguish devotees from non-devotees? And Lord Caitanya said, Asat Sangha Tyaga, E Vaishnav Achar. So asat, satsang means spiritual association. Asatsang means very non-spiritual association. Asatsanga, Tyaga, means renouncing. A Vaishnav Achar. This is the achar, the activity of a Vaishnav. So we should really try to avoid. If you avoid, if it's like at work, or even immediate family members, people like that, then, even with immediate family members, it may be, if it reaches a certain point, it may be a good idea to move out. Really. Yeah. It may even become essential to avoid getting just, abused. You can also, if people are close to you, you can try to get them to stop their negativity by helping them to see how their negativity is, it's not correct. And they should not be negative like that. But if you can't, if they insist on being negative, then move out Or if you can't, like at work, don't mix with them unless it's for something to do with your actual work. Don't sit around with them on Monday morning and talk about, or hear them talk about how they went to the parties and got drunk and, all that sort of thing over the weekend. You know what I mean? Don't do that. Just get your own little space at work and just stick there. Make it Krishna conscious and only deal with the others when you have to, if they're like that. But if you get exposed and, your consciousness feels somewhat disturbed, then, there's a few things you should do. You should just take a break from it and really chant seriously. And you should get into good association as soon as you can, because it will offset if there's already some negativity has entered your thinking. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki